Today it's all about cognitive behavior training as a rewiring tool. We have heard about cognitive behavior therapy. When somebody has an issue, either it could be with anxiety or it could be with some repetitive thoughts, some obsessive and compulsive actions. This is one of the therapies that is commonly used, and it's a most powerful therapy used by psychotherapists. Purposely, we have called it as training and not therapy, because we are using this as a tool to improve our quality of life, to improve our relationship with our colleagues and our friends and family. We are using this technique to improve our quality of thoughts. And we don't have any other mental health issues. So rather than calling it as a therapy, I would want to use the term training, cognitive behavior training. And if it is used as a therapy, they will be really focused on one or two things, and they will ask you to go deep into even writing down what you feel, what you think, journal your thought processes, journal your thoughts, journal your feelings, and what you do. We don't need any of that, but we are going to get a whole lot more than when it is just used as a therapy. So even though it is CBT, because therapy and training start with a letter T, it is still used as CBT, but it is cognitive behavior training that each and every one of us can use, and we can also share it with our students and other colleagues for that matter. And one doesn't have to go to a therapist to be able to use this as a rewiring tool. With that broad encompassing way of using CBT, still let us go and see why. Why do we need to know about what CBT is? Very quickly, it is to come out of our highly charged emotional reactions. And it is to come out of our limiting beliefs. We don't realize our own belief system. Nobody else is limiting us to be what we want to be, but we ourselves and our own beliefs are what are limiting us. So to come out of our limiting beliefs is why we need the CBT. And to come out of the autopilot mode. As you have heard time and again, 75 to 85% of the times we are on the autopilot mode. So to come out of that autopilot mode and to be conscious, to be aware most of the times, this can be used as a tool to make it as a habit actually. Challenge our underlying thoughts and to change our underlying thoughts that give rise to unhelpful emotions in the broadest sense. I've already mentioned that, but to challenge and change our underlying thoughts, be it my automatic thoughts, be it my conscious thoughts that are coming out of our limiting beliefs, if they are giving rise to our unhelpful emotions and feelings, and therefore our actions and habits and behavior, to challenge and to come out of that is why we need to use CBT. Let us just take few of the examples and to go a little bit deeper as a part of introduction and see what it is all about. We are faced with a situation. We respond it in a certain way. See, I'm not even saying reacting. I'm using the word purposely responding, and we respond it in a certain way, let us say. For example, it is our own success, and we make it big. And it is somebody else's mistake, we make it even bigger. and the challenge that we are facing in our lives, our challenges become really big and we respond it in a much magnified manner. And the work that we are doing, not even challenge, regular work. So as a matter of fact, but still, when it is our work, when we are doing, we kind of blow out of proportion. Or it is somebody else's success. Oh, it's only that. We don't care so much, or we don't even realize it is not that much of a success. We don't even see that way. Or is our own mistake. Then we say, oh, it's our own. Somehow some bias might sneak in, and it's not much of a big of a mistake. And it is somebody else's challenge and somebody else's work. It might be big for us, but for us, oh, it's such a small thing. For example, we do this all the time. I'm just taking an example, not the intent behind this. The intent behind when I give this example is good, and we have all done this. But to understand the situation, I'm just saying, without giving much time, we spring a surprise on our colleagues or co-workers. And then we say, it is really easy. You will be able to do it. Yes, we know we have a lot of faith in them, but it might be a bigger thing for them, but we make it into a smaller thing. This is a neutral statement, not a, we don't have to put any value judgment on this, just to understand the situation I'm saying. So when we blow certain things out of proportion, a situation, a circumstance, about looking at some people for that matter, when that happens, it happens a lot of times maybe without our knowledge too. So until and unless our self-awareness increases, we will keep continuing to do the same thing. When self-awareness increases, then it is much easier now, especially now for us, because what we went through the last session with mindfulness ensues now. It won't happen automatically. It would not have happened before these last 20 sessions. But now we are at a stage, as soon as our self-awareness increases, we need to associate that with mindfulness. Mindfulness has to ensue. Nice thing. Putting things in perspective is what we need to be practicing. So, putting things into perspective, can we respond or even react for that matter? It doesn't matter. When it becomes a habit that we want to react it in a certain way, which is fine. Quickly we might react to certain things, or after thinking we might respond. But if we respond to a situation in the magnitude that it is called for, that is the ideal situation. This is what we are looking at. For this is where CBT helps for us. That is one of the examples. And another example, can we please mute our microphones? Thank you. Another example, let us take coming out of autopilot mode. We have all been there, done that, and keep doing this, because at least at this stage in our lives, and then especially after having gone through this last 20-25 sessions, we know what our emotional buttons are. And the same emotional button, some people push that, we are fine, but somebody else, how we react to it, because that has become our autopilot mode. So let us go through this one more time in a little bit more detail. Yeah. and see what CBT aims to teach. If I have to just recap the examples that I did, CBT aims to teach people that it is possible to have control over our own thoughts, our own emotions, our own feelings, our own actions, our own habits, and our own behaviors. It is definitely possible. And CBT also helps the person to challenge and overcome automatic beliefs and use practical strategies to change or modify our behaviors. This is all what I've just said, but I'm just reiterating that, because to understand this more clearly, we need a little bit of repetition. And the goal of CBT itself is to alter our conscious thought processes, our cognitive processes, by increasing our own self-awareness, so that it can facilitate better understanding of ourselves and to help us to be able to control our own thoughts, emotions, and actions. I would like to recap a few neuroscience concepts that we need to recall to be able to go deeper into CBT. Let's see. We know this, that everything under the sun, everything that we can think of actually begins from a thought. Even when we react, those emotions that we have put in, when we react without thinking what we say, but when it would have started with that thought. So everything under the sun that we do would begin from a thought. The thought creates a feeling, producing an action. And then we have gone this in greater detail, how stress is caused because we'll be thinking one opposite way and we'll be doing or will be forced to. So this relationship between thought, emotion, or feeling and an action is what we need to really recall whenever we are practicing CBT. And as we already know by now, every thought releases a chemical producing a similar feeling. A positive thought can never produce a negative feeling. In a similar manner, negative thoughts cannot produce positive feelings, even though we know it is really important for us to keep thinking over this again and again until it becomes second nature. We understand it in a cognitive manner, but it has to become second nature. We need to be able to recall these concepts in a fraction of a second and put that into practice, even more importantly, not just recalling. So few other concepts that not all thoughts are true, which we know, because some of the thoughts or most of the automatic negative thoughts are false, as we already know. And just like as I said, most of the time we are on the autopilot mode. Even while we are teaching, when we are teaching the same subject over and over and over again, it becomes a habit. Unless this is a way for teachers to take up a new subject to be teaching to the students, different grades and whatnot, just so they will be learning something new, just so they will come out of that autopilot mode while they teach. Whenever we're doing something new, we are always even more conscious than otherwise. As I said, thoughts create feelings and feelings create thinking. Self-awareness, we have learned that it is the most important quality of a human being that distinguishes all human beings from the rest of the animal kingdom. And I don't have to say this, Just with the last session, we went over mindfulness at length, that how important it is to be in the present moment, here and now and here, in a focused way, concentrating, be here in the now, and also to be non-judgmental. And we all know that without any exception, whether you're a teacher or a student, doctor or a patient, each and every one of us has this bias, innate bias within us, which is negativity bias. And these, we know, if we change our thoughts, we can change our brain, we change our emotions, we change our feelings, we can change the very structure and function of the brain. If we change our perception, we can change our brain. If we change our belief system, we can change our brain. If we change our mindset, we can change our brain. But more importantly, if we change our experience, we can have long-lasting changes in the brain. This is what is all encompassing. We say, change your mind, change the very structure and function of the brain. Out of all this, change your experience is really important when it comes to CBT, because it is not about just, it is not cognitive training. It is not just cognitive therapy. It is cognitive behavior training. Until and unless our cognitive thoughts, our positive feelings turn into actions, turn into habits, it's not of much use. It won't last long. Just like usually Ramesh quotes this example. You go to an English movie, you come out and speak with that little American accent or British accent, which will only last for either few hours and few days, that's all. And then we go back to our own way of speaking with our own accent. If we don't convert these cognitive thoughts and positive feelings into positive or actions, sometimes non-action too, or actions, it is not going to make much of a difference in the quality of our lives. Extremely important for us to keep at it. Again, we know this, we understand this at a cognitive way, but are we putting this into practice? We need to keep asking this ourselves. Extremely important question to be asking ourselves. I like this statement because it's not the things that happen in our lives that drive our emotions and behaviors or our actions, but the way we think about those things. And the same statement, I've modified this even further, which we will see what it is at the end. It's not the things that happen in our lives that drive our emotions and behavior, but the way we think about those things. So what do I mean by that? Let's go over it one more time. CBT involves what we call it as reframing. It's a technical term, but you will come across this. So I've just put this in: reframing our thoughts, challenging and changing our underlying thoughts, which give rise to unhelpful emotions. And it's all about consciously changing how we feel during those negativity biases or cognitive biases or the cognitive distortions that we may have, which are innately built, which have some significance, but this is what affects us and limits us. The innate biases and distortions that we have, cognitive distortions. And self-awareness is extremely important in this process when we train ourselves, CBT, and being honest to oneself, which helps in changing our perspective. we are honest to oneself. We don't lie to others. But without our knowledge, we are lying to ourselves without knowing that we are lying to ourselves. That doesn't make us liars. That's not what I'm saying. All of this happens because we don't understand our mind at a much, much deeper level. If we enjoy the process of understanding ourselves, understanding our own mind, then going through this increased awareness will be a joyous process, and being honest with ourselves, and then we don't give any excuses or blame circumstances, blame people, or blame ourselves for that matter, we will come out of that. So feelings do come in the way of this process, yes, because feelings and emotions come really fast and quickly when compared to our conscious thoughts. And that those feelings and emotions do affect the reframing process. But being mindful about the entire thing, it will happen. It won't change overnight. But as it is happening for us, if we can be aware, as you can see, again, self-awareness is the key here for CBT. Along with self-awareness is being mindful. Again, being mindful is extremely important, because without denying our feelings, we don't need to deny our feelings. We don't have to validate it either. Without doing either one, just being aware, witnessing it, we will be able to change the process. We can restructure our thought process in a mindful way, so that we end up with a healthy self-talk rather than an disempowering self-talk. So just challenging and changing our thoughts will not be enough, as I keep saying and again. Those thoughts must be followed by proper feelings and must result in proper action. So eventually a shift in the mindset happens, and we will start looking at the situation itself, or towards a person, or in a relationship issue. We will start looking at all this from a healthy angle. When we start doing this, we will be able to give either comments or negative evaluations, either to others or to ourselves, in a healthy manner, and it will not pull us down even an iota. So especially you are all in the position of leaders, this is extremely important. How even the tough, challenging evaluation you might have to give to your colleagues, you will always look at it from a healthy angle. Whatever has to be done, given at that time, we need to give. Separate out the action from the person, not just in your mind, but show it in action, that you are able to separate the person from the action. Extremely important again. So what all I have said now, I'm just going to go through the next few slides with these animated slides, and then we will see. These slides are self-explanatory. I don't have to say much, but I'll still go through it. We have seen thoughts create feelings, and feelings create thoughts, we know that. But these thoughts and feelings create our behavior, our actions. They result in action, because thought, feeling, action cycle, remember that. And the behavior, whatever our actions will reinforce our thinking process. It's a no-brainer. We understand this. Now, let's go just one step deeper. What we think, whatever we are thinking, be it positive or negative or judgmental thoughts. What we think affects how we act and how we feel. So thoughts will result in behavior through our emotions and feelings. So what happens when we behave or act in a certain way? What we do, how we act, how we behave affects how we think and feel. And the behavior comes back to how we feel with our emotions and feelings, and how we feel affects what we think and what we do. This is not a one-way process. All the three, you can see it is kind of interrelated, and a two-way arrows you can visualize in this. Again, let's go a bit deeper in this and then see. Let's just take an example. I had to give a, not for you, you can think about a student, because teachers don't have an issue of public speaking. So if somebody has to make a public speech, what are the thoughts that go into them? What if I make a fool? What if I make a fool of myself? That very thought leads to negative emotions like anxiety. And that anxious feelings will result in our behavior as to be quiet, not even ask any questions, or we don't speak. This can happen without even, it doesn't have to be a public speech. Any time when we have questions, when we withhold questions, thinking, oh, I probably should know about this, but I don't know. So what if it is a stupid question? Many a times as adults also we might say that. So it results, the anxious feelings will result in us being quiet, not opening up, and not speaking. That behavior further leads to reinforcing, I'm glad I did not ask. Look at that same question was asked by somebody else, and I didn't like the way it was answered. We give this self-talk to ourselves, and that gets reinforced. Another step we might feel when we are anxious, we can actually feel, if we have to speak sometimes, we can feel it at the level of sensations in the body, with different things for different people. I don't have to go into the specifics. So sometimes even before we act, we can actually figure out the sensations at the level of the body. And that should give you, oh, now I'm trying to hold back what I want to do in the specific example. So if it's a different example, you can think about it. How do you react to such anxious or such negative feelings? Different people, it is different things. If it is as said in the books, textbooks, it would be easier. Not necessarily it is sweatiness, not increased heart rate, none of that. It's actually the day before, not even on the spot. We start tightening up the muscles, certain muscles. For everybody, we have different areas. Somebody it could be neck, somebody it could be back. Whatever, it comes in the guise of some chronic ache and pain, it might act up. Every time we have these aches and pains, I'm not saying it is because of this, but I'm making you understand to be cognizant of these bodily sensations, so that you can recognize this. It is much easier to recognize these body sensations, the sensations at the gross level, at the body level, than understanding the anxious feelings and emotions. Then you can actually take course corrections because of that. Let's take one more situation so that we will be able to understand what exactly the CBT is. And I have taken an example that we all go through, and we have all done this at many times, depending on who it is. We will see, you'll be able to recognize this. Whereas if it is going to be a therapy, they will take an example, like, for example, if somebody has an obsessive compulsive disorder, either washing their hands many number of times and going and checking certain things, whether the doors are locked and whatnot, if it has become an obsessive behavior. These are the kind of examples that therapist takes. What I'm trying to say, bringing this example, is many a times the labeling of these habits, makes us feel, oh, this is an illness, this is a disease, rather than look at it as an action. With this kind of deeper knowledge about yourselves, about how the brain works, about how the mind works, one can easily come out of the situation, even if it is an obsessive compulsive actions that we might do. So if the situation is, as you walk down, you see somebody that you know, might be a friend. That friend apparently ignores you. You wave at your friend, the friend ignores you, does not wave you back. What are the thoughts? What are our emotions? And what is the action that we take as a result of that? Let us go through this, and what would be unhelpful and what would be a helpful way. This example itself is a perfect example for CBT. We can see that. What are the thoughts we might get? Oh, my friend ignored me. I don't know why. Why did she do this? Maybe she does not like me anymore because of that little tiff that we have at the staff meeting. I know that she saw me, but she ignored me. This is the thought pattern that goes in within us. And what are the feelings that we might get? We might feel rejected, depending on the closeness of the relationship. We might even feel sad, or we definitely might feel low. How could she ignore me? Or even angry for that matter. And what are the physical sensations? This is an extreme I'm giving. Usually it may not be this for that kind of an example, although it might happen with some sensitive people. We never know. It might result in stomach cramps. Especially with kids, this can happen. And as adults, we feel low because we felt our friend was so close to us and she ignored me. No matter how much I tried to get her attention, she ignored me at a mall or wherever. We don't like that sensation. And what is the action? We just go home. We ignore them. We avoid them even thinking. Or even the next time, we might, either we can ignore or we might question in an unfriendly manner too. It can happen. So what are the helpful ways of looking at the situation? This, I'll just go through for the sake of going through this whole example. So we get a bigger picture of what it is as an example of CBT. Oh, my friend, she looks a bit occupied, wrapped up in herself. I wonder if there is something wrong. And the feeling is that we will be concerned about that person. Why was she going in such a hurry? Hope everything is okay. And physically, we're fine. None of the negative sensations, we would get it at the body level. And actually, we will go back and we will get in touch with that person after a while. Call up and make sure that everything was okay, because I saw you. You were in a hurry. You didn't even see me. How much I tried to wave at you, yell at you to get your attention. You didn't see. Are you okay? That's a helpful. We do this, except we do this with the people that we like, that those who are close, not with everybody. So again, if we can understand this as an example, we do all of the times, but we get these unhelpful thoughts either with people, if there is hierarchy, the people, if it's just a peer, no, at a peer level, you can ignore. If it is somebody you're trying to get somebody's attention who is at a higher level than you might feel it this way. Or if it is somebody else, not so close, you might just ignore. But the idea is to see, irrespective of the relationship, how it affects all of us, and to go through this process of the relationship between our thoughts, feelings, and actions, and also start noticing the physical sensations that happens at the level of body. And I've taken one more example. I'll just go through this. You would have to answer this yourself. All of us, we have tried to do this. We want to get up at early in the morning at 6 o'clock, and the alarm goes in, and then what do we feel at that time? That's the thought. The alarm goes off, and then I want to sleep for 10 more minutes is what we say to ourselves. That's the thought we get. And the emotions, you're so tired, or you're angry at the alarm. Those are the emotions that we go through. And our behavior is either we stay in bed or we pull covers over our head and then we go back to sleep. At times when we are so sleepy, none of this happens. We just do the last thing. I'm not talking about that. When we are fairly awake and we still don't want to get up, at that time this example holds good. This, maybe you can work on the how do you replace these unhelpful thoughts, emotions, and actions with helpful thoughts, emotions, and actions. You can work on yourselves. So we're still looking at CBT as a rewiring tool. And so we looked at the role of self-awareness and the role of mindfulness. All of this we should do in a mindful manner, without judging ourselves, without judging ourselves, and witnessing ourselves, our own thoughts and feelings. We need to put certain things into action. That's the role of mindfulness. We'll go just a bit deeper into this and see. Again, role of mindfulness is about understanding. We have gone through this last session, understanding that there's a close connection between body and mind, that we know, but we now understand that even our behavior is closely connected with our mind-body connection. So mind-body behavior and thought, feeling, and our actions are closely interrelated. And if you have to go in a technical manner for cognitive behavior therapy, this is how it can be done. That it's you need to have metacognition skills, which is nothing but we will see what it is, and mind rehearsal. We'll see what those are. What are those metacognition strategies and skills? It's about thinking out loud, or what I mean by self-recording is self-talk, and modeling certain of our cognitive thinking processes, and then which is nothing but reframing and restructuring, which results in evaluating ourselves, which is nothing but a Sanskrit term for that is manana. Whatever we have thought, we have to evaluate ourselves, our own thinking, and evaluate what you should do, whether you need to change or not change. All of that, evaluate in a mindful manner, and monitor your own thoughts and feelings. So metacognition, broadly is nothing but thinking about our own thoughts, whether they're automatic thoughts or conscious thoughts. Again, thinking about even our conscious thoughts in a mindful way is metacognition. And thinking about our perception, thinking about our own feelings, thinking about our own actions is nothing but metacognition. For all of that, as we have seen, self-awareness is the key. And what kind of self-talk do we do it on ourselves? Because we know all this, that whatever we spend mentally, the time that we spend mentally is what we will become. If we repeatedly keep having anxious thoughts, stressful thoughts, we definitely will be more stressful than otherwise. If we constantly think about positive thoughts, hopeful thoughts, and more kind and loving thoughts, starting with ourselves, and more kind and understanding and loving what we will be. And here, affirmations, which is nothing but repetition of a cognitive cue, it plays a big role in this strategy. So I'm just going to go through this process about metacognition, and then it will give you an idea. When I put this into steps, it looks like, oh my goodness, we need to do all of this. Whether we know it or not, this is what we're doing every time without even realizing what is metacognition and what not. This is what we are doing, but I'm just showing it to you in a structured way, so that we can feel good about ourselves when we think about our thoughts, when we start thinking about our own feelings, our own perception, and our own behavior. So first, when whatever thought it is, question the thoughts and decrease the impulse to react to your own thinking, and go through a true or false test with your own thoughts. And for that, you got to be honest with yourself. And at this time, remember the most important neuroscience concept, that most automatic negative thoughts are false, will help you. And if the thoughts are not true, reject them. And after rejecting, replace with positive thoughts. And use affirmations, a cognitive cue, to reinforce the positive thought that you have put in. And be truthful to yourself, because you got to be truthful to yourself to be able to go through this true or false test. Otherwise, it's going to be really tough. We will be lying to ourselves if we are not truthful to ourselves. And if the thoughts are true, and if the situation cannot be changed, then accept with serenity and try and change your belief system about it. This is where you can remind yourself of the serenity prayer. For example, you're caught in a situation or in a job that you're not able to leave that, because for many different reasons, whatever it may be, but you need to continue for whatever, one more year before you can move on to a better job. You cannot change the circumstances, but what you're feeling about it might not be as positive. Then accept whatever is happening when you cannot change with serenity, and accept it, so that for it's a passing phase. That affirmation, especially for situations like that, affirmations play a huge role. A simple affirmation like "this too shall pass" will play a huge role. So quickly, do we have 10 more minutes, Ramesh?
Yes, Auntie. Auntie, one small interruption on
Yes.
the word affirmation. I don't think we have used it till now. So you might want to spend a minute to explain to us what affirmation is, Auntie.
Sure, absolutely. So affirmations. Somebody's phone.
Hey, Janna, you might have to go on mute here, please. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're on mute, Janna. I think you are raising a hand.
I am not muted now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have one question. The point number 3, which ma'am had suggested, test your thoughts, true and false. How is that to be done?
It's instantaneous, Janna. When we read out, this is what we're doing all the time without our knowledge. We might not say true or false, is this correct or not, we might say. So this, when I put it out in words and phrases and sentences, it looks as though it's going to take several minutes or several seconds. It's instantaneous. Except if something needs a little bit more time, if we don't have enough, if we don't have enough clarity, it might take more time. Then otherwise, it's a usual process. Should I do this? Should I not do this? Then we will decide one way or other. It's either right or wrong, true or false, kind of a thing. The situation I'm talking about is kind of instantaneous. If it takes more time, then we don't have enough data. That's a different situation. Both situations can arise. Actually, it's a good question. But right now, what I'm talking about, when we have to do immediately, when we need to change our thought process, especially when it is negative to something that is neither neutral or positive, it has to be quick things. If it is something, a decision that we have to make, then we need to go through it in a structured manner, collecting more data and whatnot. That's a separate issue. There also, it is the same metacognition skills. I hope I answered your question. And then if you still have that, we will take it up further. But good thing, Ramesh. Affirmation by definition is nothing but a repetition of a cognitive cue. Just to give you an example, when we do japa, you might say Om Namah Shivaya. That's a Panchakshari mantra. When we keep repeating, scientific term for that japa is affirmation. It's a repetition of a cognitive cue. But unfortunately, many of the japa that we do happens mechanically. Here, affirmation, look at this beautiful term, cognitive cue, which means even japa, when it has to be repeated, it has to be done in a cognitive, conscious manner, not in a mechanical manner. We can do many times, we do it in a mechanical manner. Even there, it does help. But if we try and do it in a cognitive manner, conscious manner, understanding the meaning of the japa or understanding the meaning of the affirmation, like what I said, I might give somebody a term. It's a Pali term called anicca. That is nothing but this too will pass. Whatever stage I'm going through, it is not going to last forever and ever. It is going to pass. This whole thing in affirmation has to be short so that it can be repeated really quickly. And it has to be something catchy. I cannot keep on saying all the time, I know what I'm going through right now, this COVID time, this is a passing phase. I don't have to go through, everybody else is going through the same thing. All this such long talk, there is no need to. If we understand the meaning of the affirmation, and which is anicca, which means this too will pass, but put it, repeat it with lot of feelings. Not just because it has been said so, but with full feelings. When you do, deeper rewiring happens, and quicker rewiring happens when we associate with feelings. We don't have time to go through this. If somebody has time, if they are more interested, they can go to some in yoga. We have a couple of links. I don't recall which one it is right now, wherein the talk given at Baroda, right here on a national conference on Gandhi and health, we have talked about how japa works. Whether it is japa or the scientific affirmation, it is one and the same. How rewiring happens, how deep rewiring happens, and what is the neurological correlates behind that, neurological correlates, and what happens at the level of the chemicals, at the level of electrical changes that happen in the brain with respect to EEG, or with respect to the chemicals that are released, and how it actually changes the very structure and function of the brain. It has gone through in great detail in a different talk that was given. But right now, if we say this, affirmations can, they're very powerful tools, can be used as a rewiring tool or part of the metacognition tool. And affirmations can be used separately also. And athletes are known for using the affirmations in the most powerful manner. So the next few minutes, just statements, and then we can enjoy. Focus on changing your limiting thoughts, and focus on changing the actions when you go overcome those limiting thoughts. Focus on changing limiting beliefs, and focus on changing the actions when you overcome those limiting beliefs. Focus on changing disempowering thoughts. As I said, we are our own limitations, or we put limitations on ourselves. Nobody else will do that for us. We are our own enemies. We are our own barriers. So focus on changing those actions. Focus on changing disempowering beliefs, and focus on changing the actions. Yeah. So ultimately, CBT is all about actions, all about changing habits, all about changing our behavior. Just changing our thoughts and feelings are not going to be enough at all. Said that important statement I started out, I said, I've modified that too, which is, it's not the things that happen in life that drive our emotions and behaviors, but the way we believe about those things. Extremely important. We need to question our beliefs. What are beliefs? It's just nothing but thoughts repeated again and again and again. They become our beliefs. So go deeper to see what type of beliefs do we have. Are they empowering beliefs? Are they disempowering beliefs? Ultimately, the secret of change, the change we are trying to produce in ourselves through actions, our habits, our behavior, through CBT, is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. As I speak, if I'm given a chance right now to change the term CBT, it should be CB square T or CBBT. It is Cognitive Behavior Belief System Training. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Auntie. Before we start getting into questions, Mary, just quick comment is, if you can pull up that video from the Yogakshema channel on affirmations, which was a talk which was given in Baroda, and share it here, and probably point to the right minute or the right section. If somebody doesn't have time to go through the whole thing, if you can point to the right section, that will be very helpful. You can post it in our WhatsApp group. That way, yeah, that would be good. We have plenty of time to take as many questions as we need. Chandra has been of late traveling like a politician, sitting in a car and going from constituency to constituency.
Jana, you're muted. You need to unmute now. We can only see your beautiful smile.
Thank you. I've changed my workplace, ma'am, joined a new school, and in the morning it takes me 1 hour to reach there, and then coming back it takes 2 hours. So again, CBT